Story 1. My unique strategy is keeping my credit card in a block of ice in the freezer. It may sound absurd, but it encourages me to carefully consider online purchases, as I have to wait for it to thaw. This approach has saved me from numerous impulse buys. Story 2. This may sound crazy, but I played a game called Forge of Empires for a couple of years. In that game, it is extremely beneficial to accumulate and save Forge points. This actually carried over into real life and helped me develop more disciplined spending habits. Story 3. It is surprising how affordable Aldi is for groceries. According to Clark Howard, who has a great podcast for frugal individuals, travel deals, and consumer information, an average Aldi shopper saves 40%. This is mainly due to fewer options per item and store brands, which are largely excellent. Some of my favorites include Clancy's potato chips, boxed macaroni and cheese, sourdough bread, cheeses, and Italian sausage. Story 4. Food preparation involves buying food in larger quantities. You don't need a large freezer for this. Always cook pasta and Asian dishes for 2 to 3 days. Story 5. Do not save your credit card information on online stores such as Amazon. This increases the effort required to make a purchase. Story 6. Figure out how to save money on food. Plan ahead and buy only what you need. Go to the grocery store as little as possible to avoid impulse purchases. Prepare meals in advance. Story 7. Stop using social media. Convinces you that you're missing out on so much when, in fact, you're doing just fine. I remember looking at clothes, watches, shoes, and gadgets, thinking that if I did not have them, I would be an outcast. Pay off debt as soon as possible and bring it to zero. So much of my savings went to credit card bills and unnecessary debt. Automate savings into investment accounts, allocating 70% to safe mutual funds or exchange-traded funds and 30% into stocks or cryptocurrencies. If someone asks if you have money, just say you're broke. It doesn't matter if you're lying. That money is yours and must stay with you to benefit from it. Also, spend some of it from time to time because life is meant to be lived. If you always look at your savings as untouchable, you're likely to experience fear of missing out and feel frustrated by the money you're doing nothing with. Buy ingredients at wholesale prices, meal prep at home, and avoid takeout more than 3 times a month. Do not spend to impress others. They will not care for longer than the initial 5 minutes. Spend on yourself for you, not others. Story 8. Drink water and coffee or tea only. Avoid juice and soda. Drinking water will help you feel full, and it is healthy. Story 9. Pay all your bills on the day you get paid. You will have a much better idea of how much spending money you have. Any remaining cash in your account before the next payday should be swept into savings. Story 10. Making sure your recurring costs stay low is important. Housing costs, vehicles, subscriptions, and similar expenses can accumulate and are difficult to eliminate. Story 11. It may seem unusual, but prioritize quality over price. A good cast iron pan, while slightly more expensive, will last you a lifetime at around $50, compared to purchasing 5 pans at $20 each throughout your lifetime. Story 12. If you see something you don't yet own but think you need, wait a week and ask yourself if you still need it. Similarly, if someone tries to sell you something you don't already own, remind yourself you would have owned it if you really needed it. Story 13. Open another bank account in a different state and ask your payroll provider to redirect 11% of your paycheck into that account. Ignore any accusations that you are hiding money. Story 14. I review my purchases and create a list, which highlights how many items I have bought, many of which are likely unnecessary. Story 15. Don't give in to excessive consumption or buy things just because you want them. If you have enough, that's enough. You don't need excess. Also, utilize your local library. Books are expensive these days, and it's hard to believe how much people spend on them when you can borrow them at any time for free. Story 16. I learned this during more than a decade of being poor. You need to be honest with yourself and realize that most of the things you believe you need are actually things you do not need. Resisting the consumer mindset that is deeply ingrained in American culture is challenging, but ultimately it is liberating and saves a significant amount of money. Story 17. Create an Excel file and calculate all fixed expenses for the month. Create a budget when planning holidays. Takes time, but in the end, you realize that some of the spending you thought you could make is actually unnecessary, and you start saving money. Story 18. Instead of giving in to the impulse to make a purchase, take a moment to think it over. Rather than buying something random at the store, tell yourself that you will consider it next time. Instead of clicking the Buy Now button on the online store, let the item sit in your cart for a day. There is a good chance that you will not end up buying the unnecessary item. Story 19. Always try to repair broken items yourself. They are already broken, so you won't lose anything if you cannot repair them. Appliances like washing machines, while they may look complex, are actually easy to repair if you follow the right tutorial. Story 20. Live as if you are on your last dollar. Do this every day. However, at regular intervals, treat yourself to something nice, but not extravagant, to make all that sacrifice worthwhile. Story 21. These days, it is advisable to stay at home. However, other than that, consider cooking meals at home. I like to look at the weekly flyers from the supermarket and base my meals on what is on sale or in season. Open a high-yield savings account and/or a 401k or Roth IRA, and make automatic contributions every month from your paycheck. If possible, walk, bike, carpool, or use public transportation to nearby places. Where I am from, just the cost to park can deter me from going somewhere. If you find yourself spending more when using credit cards, consider taking out cash to pay for things. Some people are visual, so this might help illustrate the real cost of what you are purchasing. But also set aside some money to enjoy yourself. Focusing on saving all the time can be stressful, and we owe it to ourselves to have fun too. Story 22. Add items you intend to purchase to a cart and provide your email address. Then take some time to consider your decision. You can either reflect on it and decide it is not worth purchasing, which is a good choice, or you may wait 24 hours and potentially receive a discount code via email. This is a common tactic used by online brands to recover abandoned carts. They will send you an email with a discount code offering 10 to 20% off to encourage you to complete your purchase. Story 23. Seriously? Working from home? I don't go anywhere. I eat at home, make coffee at home, and don't drive. Story 24. 1. Stop using delivery services. You get to eat one meal out a month. The rest you have to cook at home. Stop buying coffee out. Make it at home. You don't need to go to the coffee shop drive-thru. Story 25. I am in the United States. Proper health care from skilled and licensed professionals can be very expensive here, even with insurance. However, you can find sound medical advice and money-saving treatment alternatives on social media. Need heart surgery? Try this herbal supplement instead. Suffering from cancer? Defeat it with these crystal rocks and incantations. Story 26. Check the thrift store first. 9 out of 10 times, the thrift store has something I need for half the price of Walmart or chain stores. Story 27. Own an electric vehicle. I understand it is not practical for everyone, but I spend about $20 a month to charge my car. The only maintenance I have performed in 6 years is to buy new tires and add wiper fluid. I also paid no sales tax when I purchased it. Story 28. Shop the clearance rack and look for items discounted by 50% at the grocery store. Most of the time, these items are a few days before the expiration date, so plan your meals to use those items first. Story 29. Track everything in a spreadsheet and plan out income, expenses, and bills, using 1 week per line. Story 30. If you are bald, spend $40 on clippers and shave your own head. After about 2 shaves, you will have made your money back compared to spending $25 to $30 on a haircut. Story 31. Cook at home. Perform your own minor car maintenance. Quit drinking. Quit smoking. Monitor subscriptions. Track finances in a spreadsheet. This allows you to see where you are spending the most and can serve as a wake-up call. Story 32. All my pay goes into a savings account on payday. I earn more interest that way, and I slowly take out what I need instead of having it sit in a spending or transaction account. It really helps to stop spending when you see your savings decrease with every purchase. Story 33. Look at the price per unit when grocery shopping. The lowest total price isn't always the most economical option. Story 34. If I am considering whether to purchase something, this is what I do. I imagine someone standing in front of me offering, in one hand, the item I desire, and in the other, the amount of money it would cost me in cash. 9 times out of 10, I realize I would choose the cash. Story 35. Use cash, not your card. You are fully aware of the money you spend and realize how much you are spending. Story 36. Hide it from yourself. Set aside portions of each paycheck into accounts you don't use for paying bills, such as savings or investment accounts. If they can be different banks or institutions, that is even better. Story 37. This may not save you $1 million, but it is an easy step to take, especially for young people who prefer not to think about it. Establish a savings and checking account at the bank. Set up an automatic transfer through your bank's app to transfer a specified amount each week from your checking account to your savings account. If your income is limited, you might start with as little as $10 a week. Alternatively, you could increase this amount to $50 a week or more by reducing spending and living within your means. Once it is set up, you don't have to think about it. Every week, money is automatically deposited into your savings account, while your checking account balance reflects your expenses for bills or other purchases. It is important to develop the habit of not accessing the savings account unless it's an emergency. Over time, you will see your savings grow. Story 38. Staying off most of social media. I'm not on Facebook or Instagram, so I don't know what I'm missing. Story 39. Think of your savings account as if it were not there. Maintain a minimum balance in your checking account that is at least twice your auto insurance deductible. For larger or recreational purchases, save up twice the cost and pay in cash. Put the remainder into savings. Story 40. Meal preparation is important. Make sure you can afford what you buy. Use your credit card only when you have the cash to pay it off. You only earn points. It's not your money. Story 41. I have my account set up to transfer $50 per week into my savings account. I don't really notice it, but it adds up quickly. I can do more if you want. Story 42. Take food from your workplace. However, if you are struggling financially, consider getting a job at a restaurant. You will always have access to food. Story 43. As someone with ADHD who struggles with impulsive money spending, only 2 methods have worked for me: cash and investment funds. Story 44. Stop all my credit cards, but not all at once. When I receive the monthly bill, I consider whether I actually use or need the services listed. Story 45. Cooking from scratch is much cheaper and easier than you might think. It also helps you reduce sodium intake because you can control how much you add to your meals. Story 46. Pay yourself first. Buy secondhand if you can. Do it yourself as much as possible, including making coffee and home improvements. Story 47. Just simple lifestyle hacks. Trying some of these easy ones has helped. Shop for groceries with a meal plan, saving $1,200 to $1,800 per year. Keep your car tires in check, saving $250 to $500 per year. Negotiate a longer lease next time, saving $1,000 to $1,200 per year. Story 48. Turn off auto-renew for every subscription that you do not use consistently. You can easily renew when you log in to use it again. You might not use it for a day after it expires or for a few weeks, but those days are counted toward the next billing date. The days here and there start to accumulate when you consider multiple services. Story 49. I spend much of my free time selling my existing items. This activity takes up a significant amount of time that I could otherwise use for shopping or consuming. Story 50. Forget about it until it triples in value. Then forget about it again until it triples some more. Or forget about it until the bank calls you. Banks will always call you about your money if they see you haven't touched it in a while. They just want to know if you have passed away. Nothing fancy. Story 51. I am based in the United Kingdom, so my advice is likely applicable only within this region. I manage 3 bank accounts. One is with Santander, which costs £4 per month but earns me about the same amount in cashback. I also round all my bills up to the nearest £5, which means I am actually saving around £40 each month. The second account is a basic account where I have my wages deposited. I only set up 2 direct debits through this account, and I switch accounts every 18 months or so, earning between £150 and £200 each time. The last account is for my spending money, where I earn 1% cashback on each card transaction. Story 52. Don't ignore compound interest. Save a bit of money every month, invest it in a stable vehicle like bonds or exchange-traded funds, and let the compounding do the work for you. People usually underestimate how profitable this can be. For example, a realistic 5% net interest rate, adjusted for inflation, over 30 years would give you a 4.3 times return on the investment. Story 53. Don't spend money on unnecessary things like subscriptions, seeking verification, and overpriced brands. Story 54. Create a meal plan for the entire week and purchase groceries once a week. This approach helps you avoid spending money on unnecessary snacks and cravings, while also encouraging healthier eating habits. Furthermore, look for discounts on non-perishable items, such as coffee beans, rice, and pasta, and buy in bulk if discounts are available. Story 55. Honestly, setting up a set-it-and-forget-it investment strategy, even if it's small, is amazing. When you don't see cash in your checking account, you tend to spend less and focus on conserving. Let time work for you. Story 56. Pay yourself first. Set a goal for how much you would like to save. Set up direct deposit so that your goal is automatically met and the savings are deposited first. Choose a bank other than your main bank to reduce the temptation to access those funds. Try to forget it exists and let it work with whatever remains in your checking account. If you attempt to save by manually transferring money from checking to savings, you are likely to save less than if you set it on autopilot. Story 57. Learn to cook and stop buying prepared foods. Healthy and economical, beans are your friend. Avoid drugs. Story 58. I felt very sad as a child when I was left out or when others received something in front of me. I had a harsh reality check. I remember thinking that I didn't need it yesterday, so I don't need it today. I held on to that belief for many years. Now my life is quite simple. The only thing I spend a lot of money on is my computer, and I consider upgrading it once every 4 to 6 years. Story 59. Batch cooking saves me a lot since I prepare 90% of my meals. My coworkers pay between 15 and 20 euros for their lunch, while mine costs around 2 euros. Story 60. If possible, have part of your paycheck automatically deposited into different accounts. For example, $150 into a savings account and $150 into another checking account. The rest gets deposited into my main checking account for bills, and any remaining amount after bills and expenses is moved into my primary savings account. I use the other checking account as a backup or emergency fund, with any excess moved to savings. The other savings account is at a different bank and remains out of sight, going untouched until it is truly needed. Story 61. For me, it was buying stock. Once the money is out of my account, even though I could sell and cash out, making it less accessible was enough to stop me from spending it. Purchasing more stocks becomes as exciting as buying the material things I normally enjoy. Story 62. Buy certified refurbished or excellent used electronics from Best Buy, eBay, and other retailers. I recently purchased an Apple Watch Ultra 2 and a DualSense Edge through that route. I got the Apple Watch for approximately $480 and the DualSense Edge for $140. Both items were virtually brand new. The watch even showed 100% battery health. I saved more than 25% off the manufacturer's suggested retail price. I have decided to buy refurbished or used items. In the worst case, I can send them back. 90% of the time, these are just new products that people return within the first 30 days of ownership. They are repackaged but cannot be sold as new because the packaging was opened. Story 63. Pay yourself first. You cannot spend money you do not see or do not have access to. Set up automatic contributions to your retirement account and automate the distribution of pay to your savings accounts. Story 64. When I go to the grocery store, I have my phone calculator ready. As I enter each price, I round up slightly, allowing me to get my items while ensuring that the total is a little lower when I pay. This gives me a sense of satisfaction. I can use the savings for something else or treat myself. Story 65. It's called a budget. Export a month's worth of your withdrawals from your bank and list beside each expense if it is needed, not needed, or nice to have. Rent, car, utilities, and heating are all necessities. Story 66. I wait to buy things that I do not need immediately until they are on sale. In the United States, this past weekend would normally be a good time for a large item purchase due to holiday sales. I also check the advertisements of the grocery stores I frequent for what is on sale before every grocery trip to ensure I am getting the most economical options. An added benefit is that if I buy something because it is on sale, I learn new recipes and find creative ways to use what I have. Story 67. Have good parents, work hard, and save. This economy doesn't support the social value of moving out of the house at 18 anymore. However, that doesn't mean the value isn't still present. You also can't have parents who give you everything, as it makes you unaware of how expensive living really is. The sooner you start working towards your goals, the better. Delaying it feels like a slow decline. Story 68. Avoid convenience stores. Everything is overpriced, and you end up buying impulse items. Eating at home 10 times for every meal out makes dining out a special occasion. Bring lunch to work at least 4 days a week. Keep a few frozen meals ready for emergencies. This can easily save a family $50. Dishes like rice and beans, along with hamburger meat and canned diced tomatoes, can be filling and cost-effective. Story 69. Set up recurring deposits from your checking account into either a savings or investment account. Make sure to determine a comfortable amount. Do not hesitate to start small and increase over time. The key is to maintain that amount and adjust your lifestyle for the month as needed to ensure you can continue making your investments. Story 70. Heavily restricting access to my own money. Most of my funds are invested, making it difficult to liquidate. I only give myself a minimal salary from my company, saving the rest for fiscal reasons. Living on this minimal salary is challenging, and I cannot afford unnecessary luxuries. I have an emergency fund to help me make ends meet. I am expecting a significant amount of dividends on January 1st, 2026. It is daunting as I have never had liquid access to that much capital. This will go into a prearranged bullet mortgage for real estate. I have a fear of money, as I used to struggle with substance abuse and gambling. Story 71. For anything, if it is not broken, you do not need a new one. If it is broken, repairing things can be a mixed experience nowadays. Sometimes it can save you money, but other times it may be more cost-effective to simply buy a new item. Story 72. If you don't need something, then don't buy it. It's simple. Also, consider trying intermittent fasting occasionally. Story 73. Keep yourself financially restricted as soon as you receive any extra money. Deposit it into a savings or trading account. Whatever you have is what you have. Also, withdraw cash, as cash is the only thing you can spend. Physical cash is more tangible compared to quick digital transactions, where you might spend $100 in a day without realizing it. If you have a crisp $100 bill, you will notice it gradually going towards $0, prompting you to reconsider your spending habits. Story 74. Being minimalist is very rewarding, and realizing that helps a lot. You would be surprised how happy you can be without unnecessary belongings. Story 75. Budgeting and planning are important. Using cash instead of credit cards and tracking your spending with each purchase may encourage you to think twice before making a decision. Story 76. When I want something, not need, I want it. I will buy it tomorrow. My ADHD brain will figure out how important it really is. Most of the time, I simply forget. Can't be that important. Sometimes I get back to the item later. That's a tomorrow buy. Things I revisit repeatedly over short periods of time are when I start calculating. How many hours of joy will it generate per hour? That's a number you can work with. A cheap gimmick I enjoy for a few minutes can have a much worse quota than an expensive toy I play with for hours. Story 77. 1. Stop shopping on Amazon. I impose a 72-hour hold. If I think I need something, I write it down and keep track of how many times I would have needed or thought about it. Minimalism. Story 78. If you receive a bonus, do not include it in your family budget. This applies to all aspects of your budget. Do not use your bonus to build your emergency savings, go on vacation, or pay for the mortgage. Keep it completely separate. By doing this, you will have extra cash every year that can be invested in the market or placed in a certificate of deposit or kept aside for other purposes. Additionally, if you do not receive a bonus, the same method can be applied to income from a second job. I used to coach youth sports and would receive lump sum payments every few months. Story 79. Not sure if it's a hack or just being frugal, but in 22 years together, my wife and I have only purchased new furniture once. It was early on when we didn't have much money, but we decided we needed a new couch and love seat set. It cost around $1,200, which isn't much now, but was a fortune to a couple of 21 and 22-year-olds working part-time during college. Ever since then, we haven't placed emphasis on day-to-day items unless they are completely worn out. Would it be nice to have updated furniture? Yes, but it is nowhere near the top of our priority list. Story 80. Post-nut clarity. If you find something you want to buy, give yourself a day before making the purchase. If after a day you no longer care about the item, it was just a want and not worth buying at that time. Similar to post-nut clarity, but not as enjoyable. Story 81. It is easier to stay focused on specific, well-defined targets when cutting expenses. For instance, we all know food is expensive, but eating out is even more costly. Food delivery is even pricier. We avoid dining out except occasionally while traveling, which has resulted in savings comparable to a monthly car payment. Another effective strategy is to replace soda and energy drinks with powdered drink mixes, as soda can become quite costly. Additionally, it is advisable to shop for car insurance every 6 months. I have found that premiums tend to increase, even for safe drivers. The best way to keep them competitive is to compare offers and encourage them to lower their rates against one another. Story 82. I have come to understand and accept that simply leaving the house comes with a cost. To manage this, I have focused on making myself as comfortable as possible by spending more time at home or at the gym. For me, that means embracing boredom and routine. Right now, my priority is paying off debt. With the finish line in sight, I remind myself that this phase isn't forever. Story 83. Even if your job does not provide a retirement account option or pension, make it a priority to transfer funds from every paycheck into a savings account, or start a Roth individual retirement account or index fund before spending any other money. Base your monthly budget on what remains after these savings. I went from zero savings to $90,000 in 6 years with a Vanguard index fund. I still use coupons, shop for discounts, and buy used items, but consistently saving money is the most effective way to save. Story 84. Don't buy the same day you see something. Go home and you will realize that you often do not need it. Thank you, Mom, for this advice. Story 85. Make date nights affordable. A hike, picnic, or 2 drinks with dessert, museum passes, and zoo passes. Always eat at home before heading out. 4 dates a month are better than an expensive dinner. Story 86. Fight back against lifestyle creep. If you receive a raise, do not increase your spending to match your new income level. If you start this practice when you are young, you may become the person who does not go out to every concert or visit the pub a few times a week. By the time you reach your 50s, you will have the most freedom and the option to retire early compared to others who have similar incomes. Story 87. Pay yourself first. Not all your income should go directly into your bank account. Some of it should be directed toward investments or long-term savings before you even see it. Story 88. When something breaks, I look for tools to fix it. If the tools cost around 25% of the replacement price, I always attempt to fix it using videos. This has been effective for car repairs. However, I recently ruined a PlayStation 5 controller during a joystick replacement. Story 89. Learn to make your own coffee at home. Your drink from the store is not worth that much, and if you have to drive and wait for your drink to be prepared, you are not saving much time either. Story 90. Every raise you receive will go directly into your retirement account. For example, if you receive a 3% merit raise, increase your contribution by 3%. Continue this process until your retirement account is maximized. After this point, every raise will be additional money in your pocket, and your lifestyle will not be affected. The number of friends who claim they will catch up later but never do is too high. Story 91. I always make a household and grocery list and stick to it exactly. I also create a list of bills that need to be paid and check each one off as I pay it. This approach helps me with organization, prevents excessive spending, and allows me to save money. Story 92. Raise money for something that doesn't exist. Set a goal of $500 for something that you won't actually buy, but will raise money for insurance or an emergency fund. Story 93. Hide cash somewhere mildly inconvenient. Whenever I need to save money, I take out what I can afford at an ATM and put it somewhere. It doesn't need to be locked away or in a complicated puzzle box. It just has to be mildly inconvenient to access. I keep my cash in a small container on a bookshelf. I know where it is if I need it, but it's also out of sight and out of mind, so I don't grab it unnecessarily. Story 94. Don't buy things you can't afford. Save first and then make your purchases. Set aside money for emergencies. Aim to borrow from your own savings. For example, if you encounter a $500 expense, take that amount from your savings and prioritize replenishing it. If you use credit cards, manage them carefully by paying off the balance that month or within a few months. Credit card interest can accumulate rapidly. Story 95. Before buying new items, consider using something you already have, borrowing from a friend if you won't use the item regularly, or trying to buy secondhand. If it is not urgent, wait 1 or 2 days to see if you still want it. I do this for environmental reasons, but it also saves a lot of money. Story 96. Also, consider money management. If you want to buy something that is a bit expensive, ask yourself, can I comfortably afford to buy this twice? If the answer is no, then it is probably too expensive. Story 97. I don't think anyone has mentioned this, but for me, it's about paying yourself before you even realize it. What I mean is that I have some investment accounts set to automatically withdraw on the same day my paycheck arrives. For example, if you set it for $100 every 2 weeks, when you receive your paycheck, you trick yourself into thinking you have a certain amount to spend, but in reality, you've already set aside $200 per month without even realizing it. As my income has increased, so has the amount I discreetly pay myself. Story 98. Never pay for hot sauce, ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, salt, and pepper. These are all free at every fast food restaurant across the nation. Budgeting, peanut butter and jelly. Story 99. Learn to cook. Find a hobby that is affordable, such as video games. Avoid drinking alcohol and smoking. Stay hydrated by drinking water. Story 100. Get a traveling job. I've never saved more money in my life. From Monday to Thursday, all of my food and lodging was paid for. It's especially helpful if you travel to very dull places, like the 4th largest city in a state that nobody really cares about. You won't even be tempted to see the local attractions because it's just another Applebee's. Story 101. I put 100 pounds on a prepaid card every week and try to stick to it. This makes me think about what I'm buying, and it feels like a little game where I win if I stay within my budget. Story 102. If you have self-control, put off any potential impulse purchases for a week. For example, if you are browsing an online store and see something you want, add it to your cart or wish list, but do not buy it. Wait and see if after a week you still want it. Often, that pause will separate the impulse from the action, and you may find that you do not really want the item after all. Story 103. Use a separate balance tracker from your bank. Round up every transaction in the tracker to the next dollar. When you get paid again, carry over the total if it is negative. Reset your total to that paycheck if it is positive. Out of sight, out of mind works surprisingly well over a long enough period of time. Story 104. Realize that a dollar saved is better than a dollar earned. If you save a dollar, you retain 100% of it. If you spend a dollar, you not only have to work to replace it, but with taxes considered, you actually need to earn about $1.28 to replace it. Story 105. Look up refurbished Apple products directly from Apple. They offer great quality even if their Genius Bar is questionable. Story 106. Use a credit card, but treat it like a debit card. Only spend money if you have the cash available. Never use it to make purchases you cannot afford at that moment. This approach benefits you in two ways. 1. You earn rewards for your spending, which is essentially free money that can add up to hundreds of dollars a year. You build your credit, which can save you thousands on future loans for a car or a mortgage for a house. Story 107. Automate your finances. I make $4,500 a month, which automatically goes into my savings. Every Friday, I have my account automatically transfer $300 into my checking account. This becomes my weekly budget, not including rent or bills. This way, I end up saving over $1,000 every month. If I manage not to spend my $300 for the week, I put the leftover amount back into my savings every Thursday night. Story 108. Don't save in fiat currency. Fiat is meant to be spent. It has inflationary aspects built in, and the money supply is often printed and devalued. Spending is encouraged for this very reason. At minimum, consider a high-yield savings account to earn around 4% or whatever the current rate is. Realistically, investments such as exchange-traded funds, real estate, or other options with a good track record over time are better choices than holding cash. It's interesting how everyone who read this question suggested saving on products, while my mind went straight to the idea of saving what you already have. Story 109. Have multiple physically separate bank accounts. Direct deposit specific amounts into each account based on your budget goals. One account for bills. Any bank with bill payment features. One account for savings. High yield like Capital One 360. One account for discretionary spending. Wants. Use your discretionary account debit card for your spending. If the balance reaches zero, treat it as if you're broke until the next payday. Story 110. Take a good look at your bank statement and cancel any subscriptions you don't use. Minimize the number of subscriptions you have. Do you really need 3 video streaming subscriptions, for example? Research alternative service providers for your telecommunications, insurance, and credit services. Try to negotiate better terms, as customer retention programs often offer better deals to keep you as a customer. Choose generic brands. Many food products are practically identical and cost a fraction of the price of the original brand. Avoid saving your credit card details in quick payment options in most applications. Always make a deliberate effort to make purchases, even if it means entering your credit card number manually. This will significantly reduce your impulse purchases. Story 111. Anything I buy, I consider how long I have spent at work to earn that amount and question if it is worth it. Story 112. Cancel the subscription. Netflix costs $300 a year for that one subscription alone. Imagine all the subscriptions you waste money on. Instead, invest that money into an exchange-traded fund like VOO and just ride the market. Story 113. Every time I want to buy something, I transfer the amount I would have spent to a savings account. I saved $15,000 and was able to travel by doing this. Story 114. Know the production costs. Understand what some people earn from it. Look for secondhand items. Cook for yourself. Heat only when necessary. Hang laundry outside to dry. And bake your own bread. Story 115. At Racetrack, you can get 2 pieces of pizza and a drink for less than $6, which is enough for a full meal. Story 116. If there is something you want to buy, wait 48 hours and ask yourself if you still want it. No matter how bad you feel for someone, do not loan money. You likely will not get it back. Do not take high-interest loans, especially on vehicles. Stop using food delivery apps. If you must order, pick it up yourself. Story 117. The biggest discretionary expense tends to be travel. If you aren't meeting your financial goals, cut it out or opt for affordable travel options, like camping with friends instead of flying. Another major expense is food. Home-cooked meals are much cheaper than buying pre-made food, using delivery services, or dining in restaurants. So, cook at home, limit your consumption of animal protein, and avoid using delivery services. Consider deleting the apps if you have them. Bring lunch to work or school, and skip daily coffee shop visits. Transportation is also a significant cost. Each car typically costs about $10,000 per year when you factor in fuel, depreciation, maintenance, and insurance. If you have an already depreciated car, you can cut that cost almost in half. Therefore, buy used cars that are reliable and budget-friendly. Additionally, if living in a location where you don't need a car costs slightly more in rent, it can save you a substantial amount of money in the long run. Alcohol is another area where you can save. Limit your purchases and cut back if you're drinking excessively. The same goes for tobacco and similar products. Avoid shopping out of boredom. Many people experience a brief dopamine rush from buying things, but it's best to resist this urge. Delete online shopping apps from your phone and only use them when necessary. Refrain from purchasing items you don't need or won't use often, such as low-utility beauty products or unnecessary designer clothes. Subscriptions you don't utilize should also be canceled. Cancel all unused subscriptions and only sign up for new ones if you genuinely miss them. This includes platforms like Netflix, Amazon, Disney+, and unused gym memberships. Utilize your local library to access various media. They offer fantastic resources. To enhance your savings, set up automatic transfers that take money out the day it is deposited into your account. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.